Major crime police move in on Norman farming, operated by the high-profile former Cotton Farmer of the Year, John Norman.
The analysis that we've undertaken would say that there's possibly significant fraud committed against the Healthy Headwaters project.
Police are gathering evidence to determine whether there's been systematic fraud of Queensland's Commonwealth-funded water efficiency program, Healthy Headwaters. The Healthy Headwater grants are large. According to one Department of Agriculture email, Norman Farming has received $25 million for 8 water-saving projects.
It will become evident over the coming weeks that there is a major investigation being undertaken, and if people become aware, we don't want people guessing what's going on in these small communities. We don't want to alarm anyone. If there are people out there that may have knowledge of this type of fraudulent activity being committed by a farmer, they may even suspect that they're involved themselves, either wittingly or unwittingly, I would urge them to contact the Qld Police.
2 months ago on Lateline, neighbours of Norman Farming accused it of harvesting floodwaters that were held against unapproved banks and levees, a claim Norman Farming denied.
What we found were just massive amounts of earthwork, just chronically all across the floodplain.
After the program aired, Norman Farming applied for retrospective approval of 52.3 kilometres of earthworks. The company says all but 700 metres were built a long time ago by a previous owner. What about the actual length, 52.3 kilometres?
Oh, that's bloody ridiculous. How you people in town build a little tiny levee bank in their backyard and they're onto them. Here we are blocking off communities. It's wrong. The whole system is wrong.
Norman Farming was also listed for sale. The advertising pitch for the $100 million plus aggregation describes it as an unparalleled opportunity to acquire one of Australia's most respected and highly regarded agricultural enterprises, with no expense spared on development. The claim of no expense spared is backed by 4 of Norman Farming's neighbours, who say they've witnessed extraordinary ceaseless work on the properties in recent years.
The earthworks that have been going on have been continuous for months. There's been, 3 and 4 and 5 big dozers and types and scrapers and things working full time.
Doing what?
Just making dams and changing whatever they want.
Last week, Lateline filmed these giant earth movers at work on a Norman Farming dam. Chris LAMEY says over several years, huge sums have been spent developing the properties.
Well, I've been watching earth movers going for years, well, a couple of years at least, maybe 3 years, just burning diesel, going and going and going. And I've been seeing laser buckets, multiple laser buckets, 3 at a time, people ripping, rollers, compactors, scrapers, bulldozers, excavators, brand new pumps being put in. A massive amount of work.
Would it have improved the value of this property?
Definitely would improve the value of this farm, yes. Yeah, it's what everyone, the holy grail that everyone wants to get to.
For many months, Queensland detectives have been talking to senior former employees of Norman Farming.
We have numerous key witnesses that we've interviewed, and I won't identify any in particular individual. We're looking at numerous service providers, contractors associated with that farming operator.
Fraud specialists have joined the investigative team.
We are supported by members of the Financial and Cybercrime group who have specialist fraud investigators, and they also bring to the table forensic accountants and those types of support personnel.
Can you describe the current focus of the investigation?
The focus is on claims and whether or not claims made under the contracts and agreements made for the Healthy Waters Headwaters project, whether or not they are actually contain any fraudulent documentation that may indicate that works or machinery or fuel was used for improving irrigation under that project when in fact it may have been used for general farming, for example.
The money that has flowed to Norman Farming has been a boon for numerous contractors.
Yeah, great thing for Goondiwindi. Brought millions of dollars to town. People are driving new cars, new machinery, they had work to do. There's the fuel guy, there's the mechanic. There's all sorts of businesses that have reaped a big windfall out of this Commonwealth money.
Some locals have been demanding an investigation into whether money earmarked for water-saving projects has gone instead into other farm work.
Well, I think there's a lot of work that's been done on that operation that has been done for not so much the healthy headwaters, that has been done farm work.
What's the mood among the contractors you know who've been working for Norman Farming over the past 5 years?
They're very worried, very worried. Very worried about the ramifications going forward.
He accuses the Queensland Government of overseeing a failed water-saving plan due to the high level of self-assessment and scant government follow-up when projects are done.
There's no checking. You put your invoices in and tell the Queensland Government that's what you're doing, they still pay you. And then they don't check to see about the water efficiency. It's an absolute waste of taxpayers' money, bureaucrats' time. There's thousands of pages. It's just an absolute waste of time for everyone concerned except for the person receiving the money. The water's being taken here anyway. The dams are still full, the farms are still running at full capacity.
We don't have any evidence of proper monitoring occurring by the Queensland Government. What that means is you've got major public expenditure without any measuring of the impact of that expenditure to deliver the objects of the Basin Plan, which is to increase the health of the Murray-Darling Basin.
75-year-old Richard Donovan says no one at the local council has responded to his complaints about Norman Farming's unapproved earthworks.
To see some of the works across waterways is wrong, and they should have been changed. Yeah, the water itself's not getting down the river system. It's just been trapped for a private purpose. Yeah, so.
And is it harder for you to be a grazier here?
It is harder. We've been actually more or less the other way, virtually looking for water and not getting it. Water's been changed to go to different areas.
Dryland cropper Clay Marr has walked away from this failed barley crop.
Beneficial flooding that we should have got last year never eventuated due to earthworks next door.
He thinks the Healthy Headwaters program is a farce.
There's no more fish in the river. The rivers aren't any healthier than what they were. There's no more water going downstream to what there was. And why are they throwing money at it?
Why is it there, do you think?
Help the cotton farmers, irrigators. That's all it's there for.
Queensland's Department of Natural Resources and Mines is responsible for all of the state's projects under the $150 million plus program. Most of the detail it keeps secret. Lateline understands that whistleblower evidence at the heart of the current criminal investigation was handed to it last year. But several months after that, Minister Anthony Lynham's office wrote to Chris LAMEY, reassuring him an audit had found nothing wrong and that no floodplain works or structures had been identified as either illegal or detrimental to water flows. Last week, Lateline approached the minister at his Brisbane electoral office. Dr Lynham didn't want to talk to me today. It appears he has absolutely no desire to comment on how tens of millions of dollars of healthy headwaters projects have been spent. The federal government was aware of the allegations last year. In a document compulsorily ordered by the Senate, the senior advisor to the Federal Minister for Agriculture and Water, Barnaby Joyce, emailed the department expressing two concerns: that Norman farming may have been diverting floodwaters and that the Healthy Headwaters funds weren't being used for their intended purpose.
I have copies of some satellite maps which show extensive diversion of floodwaters from its natural course. Could you please get in touch with the Queensland Department of Natural Resources and Mines and ask what investigations are underway? Do we have an audit process in place to ensure that this funding goes to its intended purpose? I believe the allegation here is that funding has been used to direct more water onto the farm.
Yet only last week, the department wrote to Chris LAMEY saying there were no problems with the way the funds had been spent. As Gundawindi adjusts to being at the centre of a major crime investigation, the farmer who has spent the past year voicing his concerns says all those downstream are the losers.
There's people in South Australia that need the water. There's pastoralists below Wilcannia that need the water. There's people down from Mungandai need the water. Our neighbours need the water. They're there harvesting rubbish crops because the flood in 2017 didn't make, 2016 didn't make them.
In a statement to Lateline, a spokesperson for Water Resources Minister Barnaby Joyce said, "The matter is subject to an ongoing investigation by the Queensland Police and it would be inappropriate to comment. The coalition government is committed to delivering the Murray-Darling Basin plan and takes very seriously any allegations of illegal behaviour."